Good evening, everyone. This is Ron, a little after six, and believe it or not, it's already the month of May. I hope and trust everyone had a good day today. And let's see, on the Saturday and Sunday, we spoke from 13th chapter of Numbers. It's the scripture where God speaks to Moses there in the promised land, excuse me, getting ready to enter the promised land, and God instructs Moses to pick 12 men from each tribe, a man from each tribe, excuse me, to go out and spy out the land. And we were looking at that the last couple of days, trying to understand that, gaining a better understanding of it, and why that was necessary, and getting a better look at what it means to be in the wilderness, and what is the promised land, what is Canaan. And the conclusion we came to is that none of it looks the way we have been taught that it looks. The wilderness is that transformation stage that you go through. And Pastor went into some of that yesterday as we looked at a closer look at Canaan, and even looking at it from a spiritual and physical perspective, looking at the human body and what the correlation between the milk and honey. So all of this is a process of becoming. What are you becoming? It's the becoming Elohim. It's the becoming and the creating that we're doing. Wilderness came from a root word that means to speak, or to speak something into existence, or to think on something. And those meditations and that speaking that we're doing, those thoughts that we're talking about, is you're creating space within you so that you can be enlightened, so that you can transform. And as you transform, so does the world transform. So again, we change the world by first changing ourselves. So I know there was a lot more said. That's partly what I remember from yesterday. Okay, so with that said, do we have any questions or comments? Not just from that, but from anything else that may have grabbed your attention.
Ron, I don't have a question on that, but I have a question. Ex Reverend Richards told me to bring it before the class tonight. Do you think because we are spirit that we have so many obstacles or go through so many things because we are spirit? That's the question.
Okay. Yeah. I think, Pastor, are you on yet? Okay. I think that the obstacles are necessary. I thought about something the other day. I was looking at this show with a young lady on who's extremely wealthy, and she has it's an inheritance kind of wealth. It's not something she has earned, but just looking at her attitude and how she acts. And I can go ahead and say I'm talking about Paris Hilton, okay? And I like Paris. I'm not saying anything bad about her, but the obstacles that she has is not the same obstacles that one of us would have. So the opportunity to know oneself, truly know oneself, would be lessened unless you really have a desire to know. If you never have certain types of problems, what causes you to pray? What causes you to turn inwardly to look and see who you are? Those opportunities do present themselves, but is it something that you would hastily, turn to because you have so many other answers or so many other things that seem to be more pleasant to you than to do something like that? So I think they're necessary. We talk about the relationship with the African and the European. If that were not friction, where would we be? Would we be on this phone? If we had everything that the European had, the comforts of the world, or the status and doing whatever we want to do, where would we be? Would there have been a tugging inside of us to yearn for more, or to see what's really in the book and to see really who we are? Because it's the yearning wasn't so much for knowing what's in the book; it was an internal thing, and the focus became the book, so that we could see who we are. So I do think those things are necessary. But in anyone else that has an opinion on that? No one? Okay.
I have
I
one.
don't.
This is Mary. Ron, I have one. I thought about
Yeah.
that, and the scripture says that trials come to make us strong. So in order for us to know who we are, we're going to have to go through some things. And yes, all of our challenges are different, but that's because we're different. We're one, but we're different. We have different attributes that we have to display. So that's why we go through trials. You don't know who you are until you go through something. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. They sometimes seem many, and I personally feel a lot stronger and better than I did a year ago about things. Uh, as far as letting them get close to me and it hurt me or bother me, how I see things. So I agree with that. I think that's a major part of the transformation that we go through.
So,
Someone else going to speak?
no, I was just speaking. I was a little late getting on.
Okay. Okay. Does
No,
that
I don't know where you are.
okay? Ask the question again, please, Kathy.
The question I asked you, Reverend Richard, yesterday when I said about because we are spirit is the reason why we have so many attacks, go through things the way we do because we are spirit. And you had elaborated on. You said ask the question tonight because some of them may want to add something onto it.
Pastor, are you speaking?
Oh, I'm just talking on mute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't like to describe them as attacks, as I once did, because I didn't know any better. I don't see them as attacks anymore as much as I see them as opportunities to be made aware of something. And I also see them as training sessions, as spiritual training sessions. Why? Because when we are faced with circumstances that are challenging to us, they're either there to tell us what we need to work on, or what we need to be purged of, or what we need to transform within us, or they are there to strengthen us. They are training sessions to strengthen us, so that when we are faced with these circumstances, we know how to travel through them, as opposed to allowing them to trample on us. But not more importantly than that, it also gives us some semblance of an idea of how to help other people get through it. And if we have these predicaments that we face, and we talk about them as we are at this moment, then what happens is put into the macro, and people are able to be infused by what we put into macro, and they too are able to get through things and not even realize how it happened. And most of us at some point in our lives have been faced with something like, I don't know what happened, but everything changed. Well, that's the kind of experience that people are having because of what we are making every effort to do in getting through these things. Like as Kathy talked about some time ago, sitting with it and allowing the universe to guide us through it, breathing to help us to calm us, so that we can get through it, as opposed to it stopping us from moving forward or creating even more problem for us because we get upset with quote unquote God, or we get upset with ourselves or someone else. Does that make sense? Does that help you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks.
Please, I don't want us to think that, I don't want us to see it anymore as an attack. Because if it's an attack, the question becomes, who's attacking us? Who's attacking us? And if we are on a journey of truth, then why would the Creator attack us? However, I do believe the Creator allows these circumstances a part of us, or to show themselves in our presence for the benefit of humanity.
Okay, with that said, this is Mary again. I'm not confused, but just want clarity, because my thinking is that all of us, everyone, those who are on the journey for spiritual truth, as well as those who haven't come into the awareness of who they are going through certain things to kind of help them to be awakened, or to get to know who they are. That's what I'm thinking. So if we just say that those who are on this journey is the only one going through some stuff, I mean, is that?
No.
I'm missing something. I'm missing, so help me, please.
No, Mary, that's not at all what I intended to imply. Not at all. Because everyone goes through something. The question is, how do you do it? And do you recognize why you're going through it? There are people who go through things, and we are some of those people who have done this, gone through stuff, and God, why me? Well, the question is, why not you? Or we're going through things, and we said, I'm living the best that I can. I'm doing the right thing. And I don't know why this happens to me. People are still at those places right now. And then they come down to the altar and they get prayed for, and then they tell them, you got to live, and you can't allow the devil to do this to you. And then they go back home. The same thing still happening in their lives. So if you pray to God about it, and it's still happening to you, and you have been taught that this is from the devil, then are you telling me that the devil is stronger than God, or are you telling me that the devil is stronger than your prayers, and you are, quote unquote, saved and washed in the blood of the Lamb and on your way to heaven, but the devil is still doing this to you? There has to be something wrong with that picture. And the thing that's wrong with that picture is that we have been taught by the people who took the holy writings and made them mean what they wanted them to mean, and used them for manipulation because they were too ignorant to understand it. And ignorant don't mean dumb. Ignorant means unaware. They were too unaware of the power and essence of these holy words, of the holy writings, and to decipher them so that they could rightly present them to those who are going through things, so they can see that, yes, you are going to have adversities, but adversities are there to strengthen you, not to destroy you, and then go through the process of explaining to them that it is not only you who are on this journey, but it's everyone. So how do you deal with this? These things are here to strengthen you, and they are here to warn you also. There are things that are in our lives that we don't even see, but other people do. And we have to listen to those around us, because I've gone through things recently, and I've had people to talk to me about it, and I'm like, now I understand what's going on. However, I don't get mad at God. I never seen the sense in getting mad at God, because what do God care about? You get mad at him, what you gonna do? Your breath till you die. But so those are the things. The thing I intend to say was that in spite of you being on this journey of truth, you are still going to have challenges in your life, but you approach them differently than you did prior to you understanding who you are. Does that make sense, Miss Mary?
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking, okay, because I know that everybody goes through, but God, the Creator, does what needs to be done in order for us to be awakened. So everybody's moment of coming to themselves is different, so in different ways. So that's all. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, on top of that, some of these circumstances we go through, what happens? We keep them to ourselves. And when we keep them to ourselves, we isolate ourselves with them. So if you isolate yourself with a circumstance that you cannot handle, now what's happening is the circumstance that you're isolating yourself with is getting worse, taking more of a toll on you, and keeping you out of rhythm with the universe, and putting you into a state of depression, and bringing you to a place where you trust no one around you. However, if you take that same circumstance and you isolate it with it, and you say, no, I'm alone with this, not to be with this problem. My isolation is for me to hear from my Creator, so that the universe can guide me in dealing with this circumstance. And if there is a need for me to bring someone in to help me through this circumstance, that guidance will come from the universe for that to take place. And so that isolation is not something to destroy you or put you in a place where you feel that you're desolate and desperate. Rather, that isolation gives you strength and gives you opportunity to be refilled and to hear from the one who created everything that is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
There is another side to it too. I think, Pastor, if I'm looking at this right too, there are times or people that to say. A lot of people don't know we are co-creators and don't know what the influence of the energy that they are. So when you are always doom and gloom, or your expectations are for negative things, like, well, everything's going all right now, I know something's gonna happen, or here we go again. Those kind of things also bring about calamities in your life. Would you agree?
Yes, I do agree with that. But I want to speak to something else that you said. If we are kind of sort of clear on what the idea of why we go through things. Because when you say co-creator, Ron.
Yes, sir.
I am of the belief. I almost said opinion, because opinions doesn't matter. And this anyway. I am of the belief that we are not co-creators. Because if we are co-creators, then why would the Creator put us in this earth and tell us to dominate? If we are in charge of this earth, then why would we be co-creators? We are creators. We are creators in these human bodies. If we are Elohim, having experience in these human bodies, then are we not creators? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because code speaks of a separation anyway.
Right. So what I'm saying in essence is that we are creators, and because of the way that the holy writings have been manipulated, we have been told that we are co-creators, and what we do, we will run back to the Bible, and we look at stuff and say, well, this is what the Bible say, but did it really say that? This is what it was translated to say. So you go to the original text, and you find out, well, this is not what it's saying at all. So there are things that's in our lives that we don't want to address. And the things that we don't want to address pertain to what the scriptures are really saying and what we are being told they're saying and the origin of both. Does that make sense, Mr. Ron?
It does. Yes.
And until we can get to the root of this and embrace the origin of both and move based upon that, it is then that we begin to see not only who we are, but we begin to see that we are functioning in that regard. And we can then begin to see the results of it. And I'm going to give you an example of a result, but don't let me lose my thought, please. The example of it is this. We talk about South Carolina, so as goes South Carolina, so goes the nation, because of all the brutality during slavery and everything else had its genesis in South Carolina. We talk about that frequently. But then we don't pay that much attention to what's happening in South Carolina. South Carolina is one of the states that's having the most difficult time passing an anti-abortion bill. Why is that? Could it possibly be that this is a message to us who are seeking harmony for humanity, that the tide is turning? Regardless of what we see with our eyes, the tide is turning. Could it be that the reason it is so difficult is because the energy that turned in this big ship is influencing the movement of the ship? And this is a message saying to us, this is not the only thing that's going to be difficult. And it starts in South Carolina because the energy of Christianity, the energy of slavery, the energy of brutality, the energy of everything of Jim Crow, the energy of secession, all of that started in South Carolina. So could this be a sign of the times? Now, back to my original thought concerning the reality of the Holy Writings. This is what I have been shown, and I see it just as clearly as I see anything. If there had not been the existence of Christianity, there would not have been slavery in Europe. If you look at the beginning of the enslavement by Europeans, I'm talking about in particular the Portuguese, it started with Catholicism and was justified with Christianity by Protestants. And you cannot understand the true nature of the book if you don't understand the history. Without history, there is no understanding of spirituality. And without spirituality, there is no understanding of history, because the two are inseparable. And if I want to keep you ignorant, I teach you about what I want you to know. And I tell you, it's okay for you to shout, but you can't talk about injustices. It's okay for you to hoop, but you don't even know the purpose of hooping and where it came from. It's okay if you entertain with that, but don't use it to send a message of change. Those are the things that we don't want to deal with. And the reason we don't want to deal with them is because the very one who manipulated the holy writings has told us that they don't go together. They must be kept separate at all costs. And we are not open our eye long enough to see that keeping those things separate is no different than telling us we are to remain separate from each other. Because if we ever come together, we'll be a formidable force. If you ever bring an understanding of spirituality and history together, you will be a force to be reckoned with. Why? Because you then begin to see the origin of your being. You begin to see that when you look at it historically, you see where the Holy Book came from. And what you begin to see is the instructions that was given to Moses in the wilderness had nothing to do with people. It has everything to do with developing a spiritual character in this earth. And it's so imperative that we do that. You go 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 years before Moses, you get the same instructions. So these are not historical stories. These are historical spiritual writings that are encoded to show us how to traverse this earthly ball with the guidance of spirituality. Am I clear or am I confusing? Please help me. Am I making sense?
Yes.
It's making sense, but I want, if you would, please go into some example of the history, the oneness of the history and the spirituality, if you would.
Okay. If we look at what is called spirituality, we go no further back than Christianity. And that is the beginning of Catholicism. Because what Catholicism did, it reached backwards into the period of Jesus in particular. And they used those messages that Jesus was giving to the people to indoctrinate people with something that the message didn't even mean, meaning that you got to have a water baptism to be saved. When it clearly says Jesus came to baptize with the Spirit. You have to be a member of a congregation in order for you to go to heaven. There's nothing in Scripture that says that. So if we look at it from what is taught to us as spirituality, then what we see also is a false history, a history that's wrought with lies. The lies that tells us the reason we are enslaved is because Ham saw Noah naked, when this is an allegory, not even a story of a man and his child. When we look at history for what it is, the reason that those who taught us Christianity did not want us to look at history beyond slavery is because when we go beyond slavery, we begin to see that the same story, the same instructions that were given from the mouth of Jesus or written about Jesus, or the same instructions that were written in Egypt, all of it came from the same place. And when we look at it historically, we begin to see that it has nothing to do with the external appearance. It has everything to do with internal actions. we begin to see that this is not about the superiority of anyone over anyone. This is about responsibility and obligation that is given for the purpose of fully embodying the essence of Elohim in this earth by virtue of bringing humanity to a place of one accord, meaning that bringing people to a place where they are just as forgiven as we are, bringing people to a place where they are filled with loving kindness just like we are. And you say, well, you just talk about yourself. No, I'm not. I'm not talking about individual people. I'm talking about the essence of the African is forgiveness, period. And if forgiveness is there, and if there are those who do not see forgiveness as an imperative, if there are those who actually take the scriptures and use them to enslave and use them to be corrupt and use them for greedy purposes, if that is the case, then they are the ones whose attitudes need to be recreated in the image and likeness of those who are forgiven. And it is the obligation and responsibility of those who are forgiven to bring that creation into this reality. And bringing that creation into this reality has been difficult because we have been taught that our God came out of Europe. And the God that we worship is European. And it's not a European God in terms of spirituality. It is the European male figure, period. And we don't want to admit that truth. We don't want to deal with that because we have been told that's blasphemy. So as long as we hold on to these lies, these historical and spiritual lies that we have been told, then we are living a blasphemous life, meaning that we are living a life that is totally emotionally and mentally disconnected from the power source of spirituality. Am I answering the question, Ron, that you raised? Or am I addressing it?
You are. It says something else, so I have another question. But what were you done, or are you
No.
going somewhere? So, looking at what true spirituality is, then, because you based on what your answer was, if this thing hasn't gone past slavery, I'm just wondering, where does the European get the insight that because it's not spiritual, as we've concluded. So where does the insight come to stifle history and manipulate? Is it just from greed, or does that energy come from the African? Because all the buttons that he pushes seems to be the right one, but we know that it's not coming from his spirituality. Where does that energy come from?
That energy comes from the same place that all other energy comes from. I created the light, I made the darkness. Is that not what's written?
Yeah.
The tree of functionality and dysfunctionality. Is that not what we call the tree of knowledge, good, and even the tree of life?
Mm-hmm.
That's where all of it comes from. What am I saying? In order for us to be who we were created to be, and that is the essence of Elohim occupying a human form, then we have to have the substance to create with. And the substance that we have to create with is not a material substance, because we are spiritual creators. So the substance that we have been given to create with are those principles that are adversarial to the principles of enlightenment. And the principles that are adversarial to the principles of enlightenment are the principles that are guided by materialism, greed. You see with your eyes, and that which glitters like gold and silver and platinum, etc., are the things that that draws your attention, that makes you wealthy, that gives you the power, and gives you, and you begin to use to employ a barbaric attitude in order to make sure not only do you obtain these things, but you maintain them through the hard work of someone else. And if they get out of line with your principles, then you are in such a barbaric state until you boil them in oil or you castrate them in the presence of the rest of the people. All these barbaric things. This is the substance of spiritual creation, and it is up to us to transform that energy of the adversarial energy into the energy of loving kindness, peace, forgiveness, etc. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah, it does.
I have a question here. Once that energy is transformed,
And the only reason I do it one way is
can it return?
cross multiply on both sides, but it makes it unnecessary.
Say again?
The energy that we're transforming,
If I just multiply.
Can it
Which
be
energy are we
rebirthed
transforming?
again?
I hear, I got background noise and I'm getting every other word.
I'll ask him.
Ron, did you get it all?
I did not. I was there was back. Ask it one more time, please.
Hello? Did anybody get the whole question?
My whole question was this:
Okay.
if once we transform this energy, does it have the possibility of being rebirthed again?
Oh, to my after love and kindness? No. See, this is the thing that we miss. There has never been a time in the earth that Elohim occupying this body, Elohim having this human experience, has brought this earth to a place where as above, so is below. That has never happened. So we are on the precipice of bringing into fruition the energy of righteousness that was always intended for this earth. However, it was not for Elohim, our creator, to do it. It was for Elohim, the created, to do it. Does that make sense to you so far?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So the Elohim, the created, doing this has nothing to do with white people, black people, Hispanic, none of that. It has everything to do with attitude. It has everything to do with principles. And in order for the below to be as it is above, then the governing principles must be the same. And there has never been a time when the governing principles were the same. It is no coincidence that we are ended up where we are. It's no coincidence. This is not something that happened by fate. This is something that was supposed to happen in order for us who recognize along this journey that we are Elohim to bring into existence, desire the energy of righteousness so that humanity can be balanced. And the balance of humanity, this whole concept of harmony can be seen with what happened to Jesus. The crucifixion and the resurrection has zero to do with religion. It has everything to do with us being shown how we are to function as Elohim. Crucified daily is instructions that tells us that you must go through change daily. And the change that you go through daily is a change that transforms those things that tie you to this material world beyond anything else. Those things that get more of your attention in this material world than does the spiritual. That crucifixion, it's transforming those things so you can be resurrected, so you can be brought into this place where you are able to experience life as you were designed to experience it. But you cannot do that because of the weight of materialism that you have been carrying since you were brought into this earth. And when that happens, what do we see? We see the allegory, the story telling us what it looks like. And it describes that by saying that not only was Jesus a human, Elohim rather, having a human experience, but when he fully embraced that, when that was fully embraced, he was able to walk through walls. He was able to move through the air and end up in another place without having physical travel. He was able to do those things. So all that message is telling us is the possibility, the probability, the necessity of understanding who you are spiritually is there before you for the express purpose of you being able to do what Jesus did. Because if Jesus said, not only will you do the thing I did, but great things you shall do, then Jesus is not only talking about going to a cross and being resurrected like we've been taught, he also talks about what happened to him after resurrection. And the death of Jesus is not about a dead body, because there are no words in the Hebrew or the Aramaic for a dead body. The thing that we call the death of Jesus is speaking to the transformation of our material desires so that they become spiritual. And then Jesus says, when you understand this, when you're able to embrace the reality of this, then you are at that place where you know, seeking the kingdom, the principles above everything else, the spiritual principles, you seek them beyond everything else. Everything will be added. You don't have to seek a thing. It will be added to you. It didn't say given, it said added, which means that it's already there. Simply, we need to get to the place where our eyes are open and that addition can take place. Does that make sense? Anybody, please help me.
Yeah, I'm gonna back you up. Say that again for part of that anyway, because I had never thought of that before. The greater thing also includes after the crucifixion and him coming back. Go over that part one more time. I never considered that.
The whole idea about the crucifixion is not about a man dying on a cross. The whole idea about the crucifixion is about an internal transformation that takes place. Crucifixion, if you trace down the roots of crucifixion, it doesn't mean to destroy anything. It means to add to something. And the crucifixion is a transformation period that adds to your awareness of who you are. And the embracing of that awareness, when you are in complete, not complete, yes, complete. When you are to the point where you are completely embracing the reality of your spirituality, that is resurrection. Because in 3 days, I will raise this body up. What is he saying? In 3 days, I'll raise this temple. I will become what I was created to be. I will be able to show you what as above, so as below looks like. So resurrection is about living the life of Elohim in this body. Does that help, Ron?
Yeah, tremendously. Thank you.
So this whole thing about the story of Jesus has been taken away from us, and it has been presented to us in a form that is foreign to us, and that's why we have so much trouble with it. And we are running around at Easter, and we don't realize that if you look at the true history of it, there is no such thing as Easter. But if you look at the true history of Christianity, it's easy for you to find where this lie about Easter came in, where it was introduced. And it was introduced for the purpose of manipulation, for the purpose of control. This whole idea about a tomb being rolled away is speaking to the message. The angel showed up. What is that saying? The thing that was blocking our vision from seeing who we are, the thing that was keeping us in this place of spiritual death, the messengers came. And when we saw the message, when the message became real to us, the stony hearts were made fleshly. The wall that was blocking the entrance to this hollow place inside of us was removed, and we are able to move out of this place of spiritual death and come into the reality of our being, the essence of it all. Can you see this?
Yeah, we see it.
And it's imperative that we see this. We cannot allow anything to put blindness on us anymore. It doesn't matter whether it's my mom or my wife. It doesn't matter my children. It doesn't matter who it is. We cannot allow anything to be blindness to us. We must see with a clear vision. And the clearer the vision is, the more we begin to realize that we are not co-creators. We are creators, and our creating in this earth is about creating a new consciousness. A new heaven and a new earth is a new consciousness, and that new consciousness is a consciousness that is no different than that of heavenly consciousness or enlightenment. But the pseudo history has told us that when we die, we go into this destination called heaven, but ain't nobody go be there but white folk. Because if you listen at the theology that we preach from, that's exactly what it teaches. We have to rise above this pseudo theology. We have to rise above this the idolatry of Christianity, because it is a religion of idolatry. We have to make sure within ourselves that we are true to this journey, because you cannot be true to the essence of who you are if you're not true to the journey. And you cannot be true to the journey if you are playing both sides against the middle. If you are in a setting because you want to have your funeral there, or because you want to be buried in a cemetery there, if you were there because your family was there, if you were there because your friends were there, you are doing the wrong thing. Why? Because Jesus said, I give you a new family. And a new family doesn't mean you write off your biological family. A new family simply means that I give you a family who is searching for spirituality as I am. I bring to you those who are seeking as you are. And if you travel this journey as I do, he showed us something. Your biological family will come this way also. Look at his mama. Look at what happened with her. Look at what happened with his brother, James. What happened? They bought into it because they saw it. This allegory is about showing us that crucifixion is, and all of these other things that Jesus encountered, even the marriage that the Mary of Magdala. If you don't become one with femininity or become one with masculinity, if you don't do that, if you don't see it as you see yourself, if you see it as a separate thing represented by a woman, that's a problem. But if you see that it is you and you are it, femininity and masculinity, if you see it that way, then what you are beginning to see is that there is no ebb and flow, there is just a flow. And there is no flow in Christianity because there's too much waiting. There are no words in the Arabic, or the Hebrew that talks about being stagnant. There is no waiting. There is always a flowing. There is always motion. There's always movement. How did Jesus walk through those walls? If you want to look at it through the eyes of physics, because he instead of having atoms, he had neutrinos. They were not negative and positive. They were neutral. Neutrinos fill his body, if you want to look at physics. But if you want to look at it spiritually, it's Jesus Jesus knowing that no wall can keep him bound. Right now, if we were to try to walk through a wall, we're like, I don't know about that because it's solid. But when you realize that your body is not stationary, the molecules are constantly moving in your body. There's always motion. And if you embrace that motion, then you can move the same way Jesus did. But you got to be resurrected. You have to be resurrected. Any questions? Comment? Or am I losing my mind? Do you think that? I don't. I think I've already lost it and found it.
A lot has been said, so I guess we're kind of digesting it.
What is it making sense?
It does make sense. The way you started off the relationship with religion and slavery, one of the questions that popped in my head was Jesus addressed the church mostly. Is that I see that a little different now because I used to think, okay, that's what we're supposed to be addressed. But I see that then as saying anything that is not searching for truth is a form of slavery or religion. So he started off by showing us, he started off with the church to show us what the focus should be. But where we are, part of the greater thing than I would suppose is focused on truth, and it delivers everyone from whatever slavery they're in. So it may not be, everybody's not in the same slavery as Catholicism or Baptist or whatever. Your slavery might be lust, it might be greed, it might be money, but it has captured you, and it is all a type of Egypt or a type of religion.
That's what redemption talks about. Redeeming from slavery, from bondage to whatever it is. That's redemption. Earth consciousness, it does not change until we become conscious of who we are. That's the groaning in the morning. All of us are enslaved if we don't know who we are. But the enslavement has become so thorough until it doesn't feel like that. It's like the elephant with the string around his leg type. That's the effect that it's having. The freer you become from the material world and from personal relationships, really, the more you are able to see yourself. Because some of us are so enthralled with people that we're in a relationship with until we worship them. They become our blinder. and we see them or whatever we own it, or whatever we own, we see it as being more important than we are, more important than knowing who we are. I remember early in ministry, I made a statement, and I was challenged on it. I heard someone say, God, family, church, and me. And I said, I don't believe that. It's God, it's me, it's family, and the rest of it comes after that. Why? Because then I did not understand what I do now. But I did understand this. There is no way that I can be the man I'm supposed to be with my family if I don't know God. There would have to be a relationship between God and me before I could have a righteous relationship with anyone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But we have been taught differently. Now what I see is not God in me, it is I am God. I am Elohim. That's what I see now. I see through the allegorical eyes of the writers of the Holy Book. I see it clearer than ever before. And I see the challenges in the Holy Writings. The challenge in the Holy Writings came through Paul, who mixed the Holy Writings with the material world, the material philosophers that he admired. It is no coincidence that he is described as a Hebrew and a Roman, men of both parentage, which means that it's talking about spirituality and religion doesn't mix. The attitude of Rome and the attitude of Africa are distinctively different. The Hebraic attitude is totally different than the Roman attitude. The Hebrew did not crucify. The Hebrew was not a barbarian, did not do the things that Rome did. We have to admit the truth about what history says, what history is. And those who do not want us to understand African history, that is no coincidence. Because if you understand the history of the African, you understand the reality of spirituality, and you begin to see through everything that's been thrown at you. And you begin to see that you have the power, you are the power to bring everything into balance in this earth. But as long as you allow yourself to look at someone who invented a car or some peanut butter and not look beyond that and see where the concept of peanut butter came from, where the concept of the car came from, where the concept of the red light came from, where the concept of the freezer in the truck came from. Where did this come from? It came from the spiritual essence of the ancestors. Everything came from there. They are so inextricably tied together until to make every effort to separate them produces something called philosophical religion and governmental enslavement. Questions or comments? I think I should be finished for now. I think I should leave you with this. There's some other things I see. Not yet. I'm obedient. I'm done.
Yeah, this is a good place to pause.
Questions I'll
Any-
answer. Comments
Yeah.
I want to hear. But as far as presentation, as far as reading from the scrolls,
Okay. Well, guys, if there are no more questions or comments, if something comes to you, write it down. Jot it down or send a text, okay? A lot's been said tonight, so as Kathy said, we got a lot to sit on.
Yeah, that was good
Oh.
teaching. Good
Yes, we
teaching.
do.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you got a good evening and a good week, okay?
You too.
Thank you.
See y'all
Thank
later. Bye-bye.